Hi, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be the second video in our Gundam Mobile Suit series. In this video I want to talk about parts prep and give a little demo on that, and then I want to talk about how I'm going to spray super primer and a little bit about the primer colors that we carry and how best to use those under what you're spraying. They're pretty versatile, so I think this will be a good lesson on that. And I know that good parts cleanup sounds like something that really doesn't need to be mentioned, but that work is literally the foundation of all your paint work. The cleaner and sharper your parts look bare, the better they're going to look when they're painted, and they get the finish on them. So you always need to be good on that. I had a body shop instructor tell me one time that you could spend the time to get the body work right, or you could spend even more time on the paint work later, and that still ain't going to be right. I mean, there is only so much you can hide with paint. So I do have a couple of tips and tricks to make cleaning up parts a little easier. I'm going to show you that. And then just for this video, just for this portion of the video, I'm going to be using a sprue cutter, and I like to use these scalpels. They are super sharp. You get the blades for pretty inexpensive. I really like them. And then, like I said, the sprue cutter, this is just a cheap Chinese version. I really need to buy nicer ones. I'd like to get one of those really flush cut sets you can get from Japan. I'd like to get some of those. And then the two sanding sticks I really like to use, these are from Flexifile. We actually sell these. This is the number 3200 fine, and this other one's the medium. I don't know what number that is. That got wore off a long time ago. I love those. Can't say enough about those. And then, of course, because we're actually gluing this kit together, we're going to be using a little bit of the plastic weld. That's really good glue. I really do recommend that stuff. And so let's jump into this and get this going. I still can't get over this guy on the cover of the instructions. That is just too cool. So as you can see, I've done a lot of work on this. I just wanted to show some simple procedures here. So on these parts, you got the two gates here and the gate there. That's what that little piece is called. The rest of this is the sprue. So I like to cut these on a 45-degree angle. Just set them up there. Just put them up against the part and then just cut. And up against the part and cut. And then on these really thin back pieces, I like to do that, but on a little bit steeper angle. So like, I don't know, 70, 80 degrees, whatever that would be. And then that seems to leave a nice little nub on that. And then this part here, I don't know if you can see it real well or not, but it has quite a sharp angle on it. Now when I cut those, I wouldn't recommend just coming straight in and cutting on it. I would actually come back a little ways on that, or maybe even turn the cutters around and cut like that. And that, you can see, has left a little nub right there. So that's where the knife comes in. You can just take it, set it right down, and just run right along that angle. It'll pop that right off, and that is nice and sharp. Just take your files, file them down until the plastic turns dull. You can see where it sanded there, and then clean that back up with the finer grit one. And on these, actually, you really don't need to take off that much material, so you can actually do most of your sanding with just the fine one. That's what I've been doing. That's nice. Run your fingernail over it, make sure it's okay. Another trick is, if you look at it in the light, you're going to see this dull where you sanded, and you'll see the gloss where you haven't sanded. So you can tell that that's completely gone because there's no gloss there. And then just clean that up. And then just do that on the rest of these parts. Clean up the mold line a little bit there. Another little piece of advice, sometimes when you clean up plastic parts, these of course don't have them because I want to show, plus it's so nicely done. They thought out where the mold goes so nicely, you don't need to worry about it. But there's a little bit of one right there. Sometimes when you sand those out, when you go to paint them, the chemical, the reducer and the primer will cause those to raise back up. You can just take your liquid glue, just run that over the top, and if it's going to raise up, it'll raise back up. Just sand it back down till it's smooth, and that's done. You won't ever have to worry about that again. So just clean them up. Make sure those mold lines are taken off there. Everything's nice. You don't need to be real aggressive with this. It's pretty simple. Just make sure everything's smooth, everything looks good. Be careful on what you sand. Some of these parts on this one, and some parts just in general, when they go together, they're designed to have a mold line, or they're designed to have the parts fit together where there's a step in there. Like right here, there's a little step right there, and that's supposed to be there. So you would just come in and just clean up this side of it, and then just clean up the top, and that's going to look fine. That'll be fine. I'll show you a trick on these here with the primer later. So anyway, that's just parts prep. Just make sure everything looks good. It's all cleaned up. It's all nice. That's all there is to it. It's not really a trick. It's just the way you should, really is the way you should be building models. So let me finish up these last three pieces and get everything all together and ready for primer, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how what we got to do to get ready to do all of the primer work. Okay, so we got to get moving on to get these primered. Since everything's all cleaned up and all the sprue gates are cleaned off and all the mold lines are all taken care of, we just got to move on to figuring out what doesn't need to be primed and how we can hold the parts when we paint them. So that's easy. I use these. They're just bamboo skewers with a little alligator clip on the end. You can buy these made. I think Tamiya sells them. I bought these, just got these from the store, bought these from Amazon. Super cheap, super easy. And with this, it's easy. You got these little joints where it's all going to be articulated. So you're going to want to protect those, but you can just clip right on those. That kind of works double duty right there. And then, like I said, you need to protect these. So I'm going to do it with my liquid green mask that we sell. Super easy. Just use the included brush. Wipe a little off. This stuff's kind of gooey. Just make sure you put a nice big thick coating on there. Oh, and then if you do that, I'm glad I did that so I can show this, you can just wipe that right off. Or just wait till that dries a little bit, then you can just peel it off, which is what I think I'm going to do because I don't want to mess with this anymore. Anyway, so that's done. And so, like on the way the boots go together, again, coming back to how you clip it together, you know, just see how the parts fit together and see what you can see and what you can't see when it's assembled. You know, test fit your parts, make sure they fit, make sure they work together before you get to paint, because you're never going to really be able to fix them properly. It's like in here, you can see where it leads the back, and then there's a spot right there that's going to have to be filled in with the liquid mask. Make sure you're painting the whole back of this, but this nub here gets completely covered by that. So for these, we would just clip them right there, a little bit farther down, because all that gets covered by the top of the boot. So then I'll, like I just did with that, I'll just put that in there, done and done with the masking, with the liquid mask portion of it. So then that brings us to actually cleaning the plastic. We sell these anti-static cleaner kits. Give you 1 ounce of cleaner, 50 of the little lint-free cloths to clean everything up with. Those are super nice. This is a great product. I love it. I have one. I've been using it for a little while, but it's easy enough to use. Comes with a little dispenser lid in the bottle. All you got to do is wet down your cloth a little bit. And then just wipe it over the whole part. Just make sure you get everything nice and clean. And you can actually feel the difference in that plastic. So that's going to have no mold release, none of your fingerprints from messing with it, none of the dust from doing the sanding or any of that. It's going to take care of all of that. So that is ready to go. Just got to mask it off and spray it. So that's what we're going to be doing next. I'll get all the rest of these parts all cleaned up, and then we'll get everything all set up to spray. And so I do want to talk about, before we actually start spraying primer, I want to talk a little bit about the colors that we sell and how they're used. So we sell 4 colors. We sell red primer, which is good for industrial applications. Old 60s, early 70s American cars use this on chassis. It's also really good if you're going to do weathering, because it's already got kind of that rusty metal look to it. So we sell that. We sell white. This stuff is a must under neon colors. It's also pretty good for lighter colors. I'm going to use it on the armband, on his armband, because I'm going to spray that yellow. So I'm going to spray that with this beforehand. And then we sell a pink, which I'm going to use on his helmet, because that's going to be red. Everybody swears by this stuff. Underneath the red color, it's supposed to be perfect. And then pretty much 95% of everything else, I'm going, well, with the exception of the armband and the helmet pieces, I'm doing it just gray primer. This is what I use 95% of the time. Works under pretty much everything. It's light enough you can use it over light colors, and darker colors, of course, just do their own. So unless you are kind of looking for a different look, you know, like, I mean, unless you have to, like with the neons, or you're looking for a different look, like with the red, just gray will do you fine. Like I said, I have, what, 3 individual pieces. They're going to be different primer colors, but everything else is just going to be gray. So I'll get on that, and then I will get all of these prepped and ready to spray, and then I'll show you how I spray the primer. And then that'll be it for this video. So when I come back, I'll have all these on the sticks and ready to go. Okay, so now we're finally to the part everybody's been waiting for. I've got the airbrush out. For this, I'm using my Pache. It's a VL1. It's got the .55 tip in it. I'm using that at 25 psi. And that's what I normally run. For this video, I'm not going to be wearing a respirator. You probably should. Any sort of aerosolized paints are not good to breathe. I'm not, because I'm talking while I'm doing this, but normally I do. That's a safety issue. So beware of that. And then let's get to this. For this particular portion, I'm going to show what you can do with some of the gray super primer. So just shake it up. Shakes up pretty easily. This obviously has been used a lot. I actually worked a little bit on this earlier, trying to get this filmed. Just fill it up. I like to fill it up to about there. Too much, and when you try to run it over, it'll dump out everywhere, and you don't want this on everything. So just figure out where you're going to start. Oh, this thing's falling off of here, sorry. There we go. Okay. So I like to start in some of the back areas. Just spray it on like so. You can see that it's covering real nice. Just make sure you get a good even coat on there. Come back in. Spray the inside, cover that little ledge there on the top. That's all there really is to it. Really is that simple. As you can see, that primer didn't cover any of those details. All of that still looks nice and crisp. Now, one of the things you can do, I'm not sure if you can see it on here or not, but right there's a little bit of the line still left in it where the parts went together. Now you can let that set for a second. As soon as it flashes off, it'll turn flat. The sheen will turn flat. Then you can come in and just build it up right on that line. Just like that. And actually that should be enough. And then we're going to let that dry. I prefer overnight. You can let it dry for 2-3 hours. Pretty much as long as the sheen on it's gone, it's pretty well set up. I like to let it really dry though. The longer you let it dry, the better it's going to work, of course. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back in and I'll just resand that. And then if there still is more, if there's still a little bit left, you can just keep covering it and sanding it down. Just put it on a little heavy, and it'll cover, it'll cover that little gap. It'll fill right in. But that's all you need to do. So that's it. I still have the yellow, or I still have the white primer for the yellow piece, and then I have the pink primer for the red piece, which I'll clean out the airbrush, and then I'll show me doing those. Okay, so we're got the airbrush cleaned off. Now we're going to spray the white. It's pretty standard, like we just did with the gray. Just come in, make sure you cover it. Now on this, I'm actually leaving the back out of it a little bit because I want to come in and spray that a little bit differently here in a second. But just make sure you cover it. In this case, it's got to just leave it for a second. We'll come back and we'll get that second coat put on there, and that'll be fine. And as you can see, it's not covering any of the details. This stuff is just covers so well and it's so thin that you really don't need to worry about it. Okay, so there we go. Nice white finish on there. Just a little touch up there. Looks good. Has a good, nice sheen to it. Everything looks good. There's no remaining ghosted in lines from the molding or anything. So that's perfect. So we'll call that good. I'll reclean the airbrush, and then we'll do the pink. Okay, so last part here. I'm going to do those helmet sides in this pink. You can see how good that covers. When I spray, I always like to kind of spray from the bottom up, and then I could flip the part around and then spray kind of from the top down. And then I'll come in and I'll do the touch up a little bit on the end pieces here. Just like that. You don't need to flood it on. You just need to get it to go on enough to give you a good even coat. You're going to notice that it'll turn kind of shiny. That's fine. Just a good even coat. That's all you need. You don't need to flood it on. You don't need 10 coats. It doesn't need to really build up or anything. You just need it to go on and cover. You're just basically building a barrier between the plastic and the paint. And on this one you can see, oh yeah, you can see where that's covered all that over. So I'm not even sure that really needs to be sanded all that much. But a little bit of sanding, that'll clean that right up. That'll be good to go. Now on my primer, you can sand if you want to. You don't have to. It will definitely take it. Of course, the smoother you can make the part between the part and the paint, the smoother the paint's going to be. And there's actually a trick I want to talk about with that. I learned this from a woodworker, actually, on a YouTube channel. He says what he does, he takes just regular copy paper just out of the printer, and he'll run it over his parts like sandpaper, and he says it's not, you know, it's not going to sand it, it's not going to change your dimensions or anything, but if there's any dirt nubs or whatever in there, it will pull them out. And I've used this trick on a couple of kits that I've done, and it actually works really well. So I do that after primer. I'll do it again after paint and right before the clear, and it seems to work great. So that's it for Super Primer. So our next video we will be doing painting. It won't be nearly as long to get to the paint portion. We're going to start right in on it. So thank you for watching all the way through this to get to the primer part. We'll talk a little bit about some detail painting and that sort of thing. But yeah, that'll be the next video. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.